So welcome to this session. We are talking about automating user access using the user access policies, UAP. So welcome. This is really surreal because the lights are right in my eyes so I can't see. So if I'm squinting, apologies. So of course, we need to start every session today and all events like this with a big thank you to our sponsors. These events would not be possible, so please go and have a chat to them. We've got so many great partners in the ecosystem, and I definitely, after all my years here, I still don't know all of these partners. So this is a great opportunity to go and meet some that you don't know yet. So my name is Louise. It is my great pride and privilege to be back here again this year. I came to the first one last year and was really happy to take the short hop from London to come and talk to you all. So here I am again and very happy to do so. In London, I am the leader of the Women in Tech group there. It's a wonderful group. Thank you, Jolie. I also am one of the organisers of London's Calling, which is an event like this, but as the name would imply, in London on June 5th. If you haven't got tickets, please get some. If you're having a great day today, we'll do it again in June in London. I am a member of the MVP Hall of Fame, and I have 25 certs, but the number of certs now that you can have is, what did we hear at Lilith earlier? 40. I mean, no. So I need to get back in the game. I haven't done one for a few years. And I also officially do not have the Agentforce one. I mean, what kind of Salesforce professional am I? Bad, Louise, bad. Exactly. Duh, just not towing the party line, am I? And as it says there, I am a dreaming addict. I love coming to events like these, talking to new and different people, meeting new different partners, seeing different parts of the world. And I always say, if I shake my piggy bank and it still makes a little rattle, then I go and leave my husband and cat behind. So what are we talking about today? This is our agenda. So we're going to go for the why. And it will be have a little recap, a throwback to years gone by and last year here. And then we're getting into user access policies. So what they are, why they're coming about, and then how they work for us. Activating, setting them up. I'm going to also talk about some different use cases that I have found since I've been adopting them and using them, but also some considerations and then resources. The considerations around, well, they are a newer feature. They've only come out in the last few years. And I think we all know where the investment of Salesforce is going. And so sometimes these newer features don't get the TLC they need. There's a great team working on them. But as we all know from our own organisations, everyone's stretched quite thin. So there's some things that we can work around that may change in the future. I don't work for Salesforce, so I don't have to do a forward-looking statement. So I can say things like that. It's all good. Okay, so first of all, the why. So this is me. It's weird that I'm not on this screen. This is me in Minneapolis at Midwest Dreaming in 2022, presenting the first iteration of a session that I went on to, and I do it now even today. At that point, it was called Embracing a Permission Set-Led Security Model. And I did it there. I did it in many other places. It always got a great audience because it's so key, but also it feels like a big job to make the change. So I started here talking about that and including here last year talking about it as well. And the reason I'm bringing that up now is this is one of the reasons why user access policies exists and why I feel that you should be interested in them. So, I'm going to do a little recap. Anyone, Wayne's World? No? Okay. When I thought about recap, that's the first thing I thought of, and luckily the internet didn't fail me and we got a GIF for it. So, if you haven't heard me talk about moving to a permission set-led security model before, here's a very quick recap in what I say. And in my resources, I've got links to where I've done it on the Salesforce admin YouTube channel and decks from when I present it. I think the deck I'm sharing at the moment is from TDX last year. So, obviously, what does moving to a permission set-led security model mean? Well, it means fewer profiles and more permission sets and permission set groups. So it sounds straightforward, but of course, the reason I've been talking about it for the last 5 years is because it's not that straightforward. It's not just a lift and shift. It's not something that you can just do willy-nilly. And it's maybe not something that your business is going to invest and give you the time to do, or as a consultant or a partner, they might not then want to pay the bill to do that. So, yeah, that's part of our responsibility to make sure they understand why we would want to. But this is what we do want to do. So to recap my approach, and again, I'm just going to recap like a 40-minute session in 4 minutes. My approach that I recommend and I put forward in these presentations is to have a baseline profile for the 99% of users in your org. Now, the exceptions being one person's got to be a system admin. And by that, I mean actually have the system admin profile, not have modify all data, which you can give out in other ways. The reason why you need one person at least to have that one from Salesforce is that Salesforce does push out changes and permissions, so you need at least someone that has access to that at all times. The other reason why there might be only 99% is because also we've got platform licenses, we've got community licenses, so on and so forth. So one profile doesn't quite meet the criteria there. But we're going for the 99%. I've got this one profile, which is a new custom profile, and it is generated by cloning the minimum access Salesforce profile. That's why that profile exists. It's a newer one, so that we don't go and clone the system admin one. Or even just one that looks quite innocuous, like a standard user one. No, that comes with so many permissions that you may not realise it's coming with. This nice and empty one, if you've let it stay empty, is the one to use. Then there are certain things that are only on a profile still. So password policies, system settings, login IP ranges and login hours. Now I would propose none of those are useful. We can set our password policies at our org level. And maybe if you do need different ones, for example, an integration, well, that would be an integration user using the integration profile, again, that you've cloned. Login IP ranges, login hours. Anyone's heard me say this before, they're about as useful as a chocolate teapot because, say, the login hours, well, they use your corporate time zone. So, you know, not many businesses now have everyone in the exact same time zone. But if you do have those, you'd set those. And then the considerations are the default record type. So record types we can give out through permission sets, no problem whatsoever. You can only assign a default on a profile. So that's something to consider. And you've got to evaluate your business and see how important that default is. Bearing in mind, if you've only got access to one record type, you don't need a default because it is your default. And the other thing is page layout assignments. Even if we're all being good Salesforce professionals and using the wonderful dynamic forms, still, at the moment, those page layouts do play a role. So you have to have one for every object on your profile. And the minimum access Salesforce one, by default, will not have any page layout assignments attached to it. So don't fall for that one. I have fallen for it, wondered why nothing was working, fixed it. So you do have to have those set up on your profile just to have a basic page layout. Also things like, even if you're using dynamic forms, what you can edit in a list view is determined by that page layout as well, isn't it? Yeah, a field has to be on the old school page layout, even if you're not using them, in order for it to be editable in a list view. Catches people out all the time. Then, and I need to talk quicker on this because this is the recap, then we're getting into permission sets. So my recommended approach is that you set up a set of core permission sets. So here we've got core universal permissions. So things like your app that you give your company, what connected or the new external client apps they have access to. Key tabs like home, tasks, reports, dashboards, I always forget about those otherwise. The basic level of permissions that you want all of your users to have. So run reports, run flows, API enabled, access activities. So that's the key thing there, access that all internal licensed users should be granted. Then say account and contact is a core object, used across your entire business, very commonly so. You'd make sure in a permission set, there's the tabs, create, read, edit on account, create, read, edit on contact, and then the same for the fields. But then maybe we're talking about some other commonly used objects that here, I'm thinking about a sales-led organisation, of course, in other worlds there'll be other objects. So maybe everyone in your business can see the leads and see the campaigns. So you give everyone access to the tabs, read on object and fields. And the same for opportunity and its associated objects. Everyone can see them, so you give them access to the tab, you give them read. If you're using opportunity products, you need that read on the product and on the opportunity line item, opportunity product, and FLS. So let's say in this scenario, that's every user has this as a baseline. So then that gets added to a permission set group that is basically your baseline for all your users. Then you think about non-universal. So here I'm thinking about a set of permissions that traditionally my commercial users are using. So access to the sales app. They can convert leads, they can send list views, they can manage and transfer leads, they can edit the opportunity product sales price. Obviously that list would be longer, just a selection. Then, gone down. Then they have edit access to opportunity and its associated objects. So you've got a few different permissions there. Of course, we're building block. Then I've got a selection of executive permissions that I put in a permission set. So the execs need view all on opportunity because the role hierarchy might do the job, but maybe not 100% of the time. They want to be able to export reports, transfer records, etc., subscribe. But in the odd order. And then I've got the equivalent on lead. But you get the idea. I've got my baseline that is essentially read on the key objects and the permissions they need to run and use Salesforce, such as run reports, run flow. And then I've got a set now for edit access. And that is normally how I work. And then persona-based permission set groups. So this is where I group them into. So say for my sales users, they get that commercial permissions permission set. They get the lead and campaign edit permission set, opportunity permission set. Marketing have got their versions, support and finance. So these are permission set groups which are collecting together the permission sets. And you can see, obviously, they're reused. Those permission sets are reused. Equally, we might have other different types of permission sets. So managing users, enhanced reporting access, delete, i.e. merge, or the way around merge, i.e. delete, and then functionality access. So these are all grouped into permission sets. And then added, and this is an example of maybe a super user permission set group. So you can see at this point, I've got my core permission set group that everyone gets. I've then got permission set groups for personas, and maybe I've got some other permission set groups for task-related, like in this case, super users. And of course, what we need to do is then you apply a building block approach. So everyone gets the profile, which is empty, everyone gets the baseline, and then they get their persona-based permission set group, maybe another one as well, maybe the odd individual permission set, and that is their user access. But now comes the new part, because people will say, and have said to Salesforce, well, hang on, I just want to give people one profile, gives them all the access, job done. I can automate it through Okta or my Azure people management. I can automate all of that. This permission set and permission set group malarkey that Louise keeps talking about is going to double my workload. And so Salesforce listened and said, okay, yeah. So that is where user access policies come in. Now that's why they exist and why I think that you should all use them. So what are they? They enable us to build a criteria and then automate the assignment or the removal of permission sets, permission set groups, permission set licenses, package licenses. So if you've gone outside and made a great relationship with one of, PDF Butler, and you're now a customer and you've got their licenses and you know who to give out those licenses to, that is involved here as well. Assigning them to queues and assigning them to groups. or indeed removing. So, great. That is what they do. So how do we use them? So step 0 is we activate them. So here, oh yeah, video's working. So here we go to user management settings and we have to turn them on. We have to activate them. So we find user access policies, we turn it from disabled to enabled, we refresh the page. There they are. And now in my menu, I have a new option for user access policies. So if you say to me, Louise, I've looked in my org, we haven't got them. Why haven't we got them? You've got to turn them on. Don't have to talk to support, don't have to do anything else, but you've got, an admin has to turn them on. So then what do we do? Well, then we have to say, who do we want to update or automate the permissions of? So you identify who this is applying to. It's a bit like sharing rules. Think like back to what you do for sharing rules, it's quite similar. Then you have to say, what permissions do you want to update or automate? Okay, so who are we applying this to and what are we applying? And then the third one is, well, do I want to automate this? Or do I want to just do a mass update? And I started off talking about this, focusing on the automate. It's in the title of the session. But in actual fact, as I've been using these over the last year or so, I really like the mass or update just as much. Okay, so when it comes to who, we have to build out a criteria. And this is where a few of the considerations come from. Because this tool, at the moment, there's no or, there's no using a formula to work things out. You're limited to the options on the page that I will show you shortly. So you've got to think about your criteria. But you define the user by if they're in a group, and there's no isn't. So are they in a group? Are they in a queue? Do they have a particular permission set or a permission set group? Do they have a license? Do they have a profile? Or do they have a role? So that's the criteria you've got for the first line. And you notice there's no custom fields there. Then you've got an additional set. So this is where it opens it up a bit more. But you do need something from the top one. You can't skip it. So active, always use active. What's their department? Well, bear in mind that's a free text field out of the box. Probably not the best idea. Division, email, first name, last name. So you've got some options there. User type is actually a useful one because that's the license. Do they have a standard license or platform license or community license? Okay, so that's what you've got to work with at the moment. And again, don't work for Salesforce, so I don't have to worry about roadmaps. I would hope that some of these there will be other iterations of this in the future. So this is what the screen looks like. So here you can see I've said the profile equals Tangara user. So that's just the standard empty profile that all my users have at my company. Spoiler, it's just me, so it's fine. But then we have here active equals, ignoring case, true. Okay. Now, I didn't think it mattered really about adding active before. And then when I had this rolled out for a client or two, it was triggering on inactive users or when we deactivated a user. And I got email alerts telling me my user access policies failed. And that was enough for me to want to bring in this active. Okay, so that's an example of a criteria. But you can see here it's add condition, but there's no condition groups, like say we see, where am I thinking of those in like Pardot? There's no does not equal, there are limits there. So you can only add, not take away. So next question, once we've defined our group of users, and I know I showed you a very basic example there, but I will look at others, is what do we want to grant or revoke access to? So these again are the options. So here is another example with that extra layer on here. So in a very basic way, we said anyone who's got my profile and is active, they automatically get my permission set group of, in this case, Tangara standard permissions. So remember back to my recap, that is a permission set group that has the baseline permissions that every one of my users can have. So this just here means that anyone who's added with the only profile we're using in this company automatically get my permission set group. So that is no more clicks than setting up a user and choosing the sales profile or the marketing profile or the head of sales profile or whatever other nightmares we might have. Okay, so that immediately takes us back to the same clicks as we had before. No more complaints from, who was it I had on the screen? Christina Ritchie. We're there. But of course, that's not our whole picture. I just looked back and talked about my different permission set groups. And what happens here is the user is added, be it added by human or by integration with your HR system or whatever system, your identity system. And it just, all you need to do is refresh the page if you want to check, and there is the permission set group. And if it fails, as I mentioned, you as the admin get that email. So the third question here is, do you want to mass update or automate? And this is where it comes in on the screen. We can apply policy to users that meet the criteria, that's mass update, or we can automate. So the first screen here, this is an example of if I wanted to just apply it en masse to my users. I apply policy, it gives me the list of users that would meet that criteria today, if I run it today, and I can apply to all users, or I can select certain users to apply it to. So I'm going to come back to that as a tool. But then if we want to automate it, which for my example I just gave you, if they're active and they've got the standard profile that we've created, then give them this standard permission set group. That is where we can automate it. So to automate it, you have to give it a sort order, and I'll come back to that later. So you give it a sort order, and then you say, is it when it's created, updated, or created or updated? Standard terminology we're all used to. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Yay, worked. So we go to new user access policies and give it a name. I love that even on my recorded demos, I make a typo. So this is my Tangara user. So I've given it a sort order as one. I want that to run. And this is automating the access for our standard users. So then I've got to edit the criteria. So this is where I build out who am I applying this to. So I'm going to say, as I did on my screenshot, profile equals, and I'll pick my custom profile, which is empty. And then active, going to make it case insensitive, is true. Then I can say, I'm going to grant, you saw there was revoke as well, my permission set group of Tangara standard user. Really straightforward. I hit save, and then I can automate it. I could apply it en masse and see who it would apply to if I ran it today. But I'm going to say, I'm going to automate it for every time they're created or updated, because bear in mind, someone might be a platform user and then get upgraded to a full user. So that's a change of their profile. They now meet my criteria. They get the permission set group. And you can see here on this screen, the criteria, the actions, and then the third one before it disappears is the changes. So you can go in and have a look at your policy and see when it last ran and who it applied to, which is really nice. Now, I'm going to jump ahead to my considerations and the sort order point that I made. So one of the considerations is we have a sort order, and a bit like a lead assignment rule, it checks them in order, and the first one it meets the criteria of, that runs. Okay, so you've got to think about that as you build them out, because if you want to give them the baseline permissions, but then also the commercial team permissions, it's never going to get to sort order 4 if sort order 1 has run. Okay, so think of it like a lead assignment rule in that way, that it'll meet the first, it's if else, but then it's not going to go round again. Pretty common, I've just given a couple of examples. However, it definitely did catch me out at the beginning. I was like, no, bugger, that's not going to work because it's not going to give them the extra permission. So this is what I'm thinking about, how we combine them. So here, instead of saying if they've got my profile, so I've scrapped that one. Now I'm going down a route of, I'm doing it role-based. So if their role is sales, and obviously we might have a more defined role name, and they're active, then they get both the standard one that's going to give them their baseline access permission set group and the commercial team permission set group. So you've really got to think about how you can divide your users up. And I think role's quite a good way to do it, as long as you've got a manageable role hierarchy and it is there for the purpose. Remember, the role hierarchy doesn't match your org chart. It's there for security only and sharing only. Okay, so that's something that I'd think about. And if we get more fields available to us in this top option, or maybe we can make a more sophisticated criteria, then I think that will open up a few more options. But you have got to think of it that way. A couple of other tips here on them. So here, you can see this is and. So I've got 2 criteria at the top. There's no way for me to switch that and to an or. Okay, so it's and only. Again, maybe that's on the roadmap. I'll have to chat to Cheryl and see. So here they do have this permission set and their profile, but the key thing here, let me just show, is the in. So then I can have 2 options. So again, thinking of different ways that I can mix up and write my criteria. And then the other one I just wanted to highlight here was the user type equals standard. That's quite a nice way. Say you've got permissions that all your platform users have to have. You could do it that way instead of naming anything. Obviously, wherever possible, we want to keep things open and using criteria like this rather than hard coding anything. So, thinking about that, you've got to think about how you're building out your users and you're compiling them, you're writing your criteria. As I said to you earlier, I automatically set this up for all my customers, anyone who gives me access to their org, they'll find this working out for them so that they can automate it. Even if they don't realise. They give people much more elevated permission. They don't realise that every new functionality I've been added to a permission set, not to their profiles. So I automate it so they don't have to worry. But then I started to really get into the use case for the not automated side, the mass updates. So reasons I love this is granting licenses with permission sets. So for example, if you've got a vendor app, a third-party ISV app that uses a license, you have the permission set that gives them access to that app. Maybe you've got a custom one as well, because the one that you installed from them can't be customised, but you need to give them slightly different permissions. So you've got that, and you need to give them the license. So you can then build out a criteria that meets the people who have got this permission set. I want to make sure they've got the license, and you can run this, and it will give you a list of all the people with a permission set that then you can just double check they've got the license as well, because that happens a lot. Or even the reverse. They've got the license, but have they got the permission set? I really like doing that, because the amount of times people say, I've given them the permission, well, you haven't given them the license, or vice versa. So I do that a lot. Mass updating and assigning new permissions. So if I am, again, maybe a third-party app, or maybe a new piece of functionality that's got its own permission set, I'm adding it to some permission set groups, but I need to mass assign it to everyone in that team, everyone who's got it, because it's not going in a permission set group. I can then build out this criteria and apply that permission and then add it to the user access policies for the future. Because remember, a user access policy, like anything else, has to be triggered off of something. Okay, so it's waiting for something to change. If your user record doesn't change, it's not got any reason to run. The third reason is probably now my favourite. And because I have realised that I can use user access policies and the mass update part to actually get a group of users that I couldn't do in a list view. So again, if I want to see a group of users who have got access to a particular feature, say you've got a third, again, I'll use another ISV partner, they get the app in, you need to see a list of users and then do something with them. So yes, you can go to the permission set and just see the list of users, but how do you recreate that? Do you have that on one screen and then you go through and you give them these other permissions? So I've actually got a recent example. One of my clients using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, pretty common. I imagine we've all used it, had clients use it, had companies use it. With that access, there's an out-of-the-box permission set that you can't add to. I went through a security review with them and installed the app, so it was a connected app, and then said, okay, we're now going to grant access to this connected app via a custom permission set, because we can't edit LinkedIn's one because it's managed. So now all of my LinkedIn Sales Navigator users had to have both permission sets. Now, it wasn't everyone in the sales team had it. It was certain users, because it's licensed. You have to go onto LinkedIn and give them a license. So I used a user access policy, say, give me all the people that have got permission set, the standard out-of-the-box LinkedIn one, and then I want to run it and give them all my new custom one. Then I added them into a permission set group and automated that bit. But that was something I would have had to have on two screens otherwise. All of my LinkedIn users, because there's no other criteria other than they have this permission set, I'd get that up. I would have had two screens adding them all. If there'd been hundreds, I would have been pulling my hair out. So that is a favourite way for me of using these now. So not just the automation. So this is an example of it. So I've got permission set equals Sales Cloud user and profile, but then you can see at the bottom, I'm giving them a pipeline inspection user permission set and the sales user permission set license. So again, a different thing here just by building out these different criterias. Okay, so just different ways of working it. Oh yeah, and I've got the user type in the second one there as well. Okay, so here's what you do. You'd apply it and then do it. So no, that's not a video. Okay, so big fan of that myself. Now, this comes back to the considerations. So I've talked about a few of these as we've gone. So the top one, you can only have 200. Well, yeah, bearing in mind only one will run per user, I think 200 is fine, but I have seen people ask for more. An action performed by a user access policy cannot trigger another one. So what does this mean? If you have created a user access policy that gives them all the baseline permission set group, and then you've got another user access policy that says, if they've got the baseline permission set group, give them this other thing. Not sure why you would, but you could. That won't run in one transaction. Okay, because the act of the user access policy isn't the kind of edit that can re-trigger it. Which is probably quite good for not getting in some kind of evil loop as well. Highlighted here, this is the number one thing that catches people out, so think about that in your planning. If you hit number one, it's not going to care about the rest of them. You know, it's just going to run the first one. So think about how you order them and think about the criteria you build out. If you are using my use case of using one to assign licenses and you've only got 20 licenses and you try to assign the 21st, you will get an error. It will email you and say, this didn't run because you don't have enough licenses. And you can go in and go, oh gosh, yeah, I better tidy that up because I should have enough licenses. And just a bit of an odd one, the recent changes that I showed you on a screenshot earlier that's quite handy for seeing when this last ran and what happened, won't work if you've turned off the user access policy. So you can't really use it as a real history. It's not going to go back indefinitely in time. So, there is a trailhead module on this, so it's a great way of just brushing up on that. So go and have a look. It's been around a little while, but as I mentioned, they haven't changed that much yet, but I'm hopeful the roadmap will be coming into play at some point soon. And then I have here some resources, which include a copy of this deck, a copy of my more involved permission set model changes one, as well as some other information about user access policies and changes and things like that. So go take a look at that if you would like. So I'll just pause. If not, the bit.ly is quite easy, or if not, just come ask me. Maybe the resolution's not great. I can get it back up afterwards, anyone needs to. And so more barcodes. This is the one, I'm sure now we're after lunch, everyone's looked at this already. Just a reminder, if you haven't, you need to open the app, click on where's buzzing? What's buzzing? Anyway, that one there. And then it'll give you a list of the sessions in this time slot. If you click on mine, you can either scan the barcode at that point, or you can just use the word policy to get into that. Please provide feedback. It is always a gift. And then with that, I'm going to say thank you for your time this afternoon, and particularly after all that lovely cake. Thank you to our sponsors again. And it tells me 4 minutes, but I've probably only got 1 or 2 because we started a bit late. So I do have time for any questions if anyone would like them. If not, come find me. I will be here all day. Yes. Well, let's make Martin run. Oh, I need to put this on.
Again, thanks very much. One of the questions I have, so you give a lot of your examples around dealing with ISV apps. So we are an ISV shop, and I checked to see that these are packageable, but if we only get the option of, if it runs, let's say it picks up a user for more than one user access policy, and you don't know what you're going into in any given org, any strategies on how to ensure that your user access policy is applied as you expect?
I mean, I would say, I don't know if you can really, because exactly as you've just said, if I purchased from your company and part of your package was a user access policy that had the sort order of what one, and that made all of mine not run, I'd be coming to find you.
Exactly. Or there'd probably be an install time dependency there where it'd probably give out and say you can't because, you know, we have conflicting. So, yeah.
I would probably, my recommendation to people like yourselves would be to, in your documentation, put a note, we recommend that you consider user access policies for assigning these permissions, and give an example of one, but with a note to, if you're already using them, consider that, because, yeah, I don't think they could be part of your package really and work.
And that's obviously is that just the automated case? Could you just batch it instead?
Yeah, exactly.
And just kind of like run for this criteria, and then the sort order doesn't apply?
Sort order doesn't apply if you're just running it because it's manual. So yeah, yeah. So again, maybe you could have it as part of your package that way, but also, like, I think in the documentation of the post install setups, that would be a perfect place to add it as a use case.
Perfect. Thank you.
Problem. Anyone else? Yes, sorry. The one for this one. The next one, there we go. Ah, excellent.
I do have a question.
Yes.
If you assign the permission set or permission set group manually, and then you resave the user, will get it removed or it will stay?
No, it won't. The only way it will remove is if you actually actively say revoke. It will do as if you manually. No, you don't get an error or anything. If you did it manually through user access policies, it would do the same as if you do it completely manually. We worked for 2 users, 3 didn't work for because they already have it. All right. Well, thank you folks for your time. I'll see you all on the dance floor later.